And the other option is, like, for example, cd into directory use 2 ampersand stuff like this. So various ways of doing that, of basically running more than one command after command. The other way of doing it is just writing a script where all these commands are stored. So basically it's getting very complex. You have to start writing a shell script that does all that, or get somebody else to do it for you. And then feed the parameters basically and just run it that way. So you're running one command that runs the whole script. One way of doing it. Now, of course, where are all these command line applications? Where is all this wonderful stuff, and how do I get my hands on it? Well, obviously, SourceForge is a very good resource for command line applications. You find all sorts of interesting stuff there. Google Code is another one. And of course, you just start looking for stuff. You know, for example, image processing command line will throw up some interesting things. There's one thing to keep in mind that you could be dealing with very large projects. For example, FFmpeg is video processing from the command line, and that's basically maintained by a number of developers, not just one person. And that has advantages, of course. There are also individual developers who write all sorts of interesting stuff. One thing I would advise is that you check the amount of activity that's actually taking place. For example, if you find a very useful application, but it hasn't actually been worked on, let's say for about the last 3 years, then you might want to think twice before you start using it and letting your application depend on it. Usually in applications or in websites like SourceForge, you'll find all that type of information, when it was last updated and how much code has been released and stuff like that. People like Mark Leonash is a Swiss developer who has been very active and very reliable. He, for example, did some installers for ImageMagick for macOS 10 and MySQL at the time as well, before they actually had their own installations for macOS 10. Some of my favorites are CatDog, which is basically a little application developed by some guy in Russia. And it allows you to read Microsoft Word files, Excel files, and PowerPoint files. As in the text information that's in those files. It doesn't mean that you can do anything useful when it comes to previews, but it's very good for reading text and Word documents without having to have anything Microsoft installed on your server. FFmpeg, like I said, is a very complex bit of kit that's great for processing videos. I have written a whole instruction thing on Lasso Tech on how to work with it and how to create previews from videos and stuff like that, so I won't go into all that stuff here, but you can read it on Lasso Tech. ImageMagick, of course, is an all-time favorite. That's how it all started, really, to be quite honest. PDF to text is another one. Again, it does the same as CatDog, but only with PDF files, and has some other functionality as well, like concatenating PDFs together. For example, I found that Lasso had a very unfortunate memory limit on creating large PDF files. For example, it would stop at 20 megabytes, and if you tried to concatenate 2 PDFs that was bigger than 20 megabytes, it wouldn't work. So I started using PDF to text through the command line to do that before I discovered that you can actually increase the memory for the PDF tags with Lasso. Again, it's available on Lasso Tech on how to do that. It's outside the scope of this talk. GoScript is another very useful application that you could use for creating previews, for example, from PDF files. You could use ImageMagick for that as well, but all ImageMagick does is feed the parameters to GoScript anyway, so you might as well call GoScript directly, which is much, much faster than using it through ImageMagick. Now, to install this app, that's always the problem. You find this stuff, you know what you do. First of all, I'll go back one step. Ideally, of course, you find a macOS 10 installer that does that for you, but that doesn't always, it's not always available, so that's a bit of a problem. First thing you'd have to have in your toolbox is the Apple Developer Tools. Now, that comes with macOS 10 Server. I think it may also come with client, I'm not sure, but it's available for download. Does it, yeah? It's available for download anyway as well. Just Xcode, that's right. Yeah. So you need to get, it's quite a large download. I think like something like that, but downloads quite quickly. Obviously, then you go and find your source code, so you can find where, on SourceForge or wherever the case may be. Always keep it somewhere handy, because you never know. It's a good idea to have a special folder where all your command line source code goes, so that you can always install it again if you need to, or for example, if it's discontinued for whatever reason. For example, now, if you find some source code, usually on Unix-style applications, are tarballed, as it's called, and gzip compressed. So you end up with a file that calls something like that. Gzip indicates, GZ indicates it's zipped. That's the tarball, and that's usually the version number. So the first thing to do is decompress it. You can do that on the command line in a macOS 10 file. Usually you double click on it and it will just expand itself. So you end up with a folder full of stuff. Usually there's things in called configure, called readme and stuff like that, read that of course. But also documents, really weird file extensions, and basically you don't have to worry about what any of that stuff does and what it looks like. But you go into your terminal and you CD into that folder. By the way, a quick way, shortcut to CD into anything is just type in CD and then drag the folder onto the terminal and it goes straight in that. Hit return and you're inside of that folder. Then, so basically there we go, the CDing into the folder that I've downloaded into my handy little source folder that I've created. So I'm now into that folder. I type in full stop, or period, /configure. Anytime you type in a full stop, a slash, and then the name of the script, it will run that script. Okay, that's what we're doing as well with the hello.sh script that I put in the code samples. So that will run the script. Then it starts doing stuff. You type in make. You don't believe me, that's how it works. You type in. The one is doing well. Okay. No. Type in make. And then eventually type in sudo make install. Sudo is basically the root that prompts you to type in your password, and it then installs the software. You end up with something along these lines. You see all this stuff going past your screen. You wonder what, if all goes well, it should actually be installing the software for you. Okay? And eventually finishes make successful. Now, there's other things to keep in mind if you're installing software that are building from source, as they call it, or compiling. It's not necessarily a standalone application. It is possible that you need all sorts of other stuff to make it work. For example, ImageMagick itself needs all sorts of libraries, like the JPEG library, the PNG library, all that gear to make it work properly. Usually you supply your parameters to the configure script that we called earlier, like for example typing in configure and then these parameters. Now for example in the documentation I've provided on installing FFmpeg has all these type of options. It's all explained on the Lasso 10 site. Now the other option, then it gets all too complicated, you can always use Mac ports. We'll get to that in a second, which makes life a hell of a lot simpler.